Hi everyone, welcome to my first review of 2022. Anyway, let's talk about the first review of 2022 being the Motorola G60S. Now I know, Motorola isn't covered quite a lot on YouTube, and I feel like as reviewer you should kind of defer to different brands as well, because this way you can inform a person that is looking for a review about different devices as well. Even if it doesn't get the same amount of views, it's still important to inform you about the performance of a device if you are looking for it. Now I've used quite a bit of Motorola devices, but most recently the Motorola G100 and of course the Motorola 20 Edge Pro. Both of those reviews will be linked in the description so you can check those out as well. Overall, what I do see with this device as well, sadly, that we also get with the other ones, is for instance, all of them have no dual speakers. Again, this is really quick and straight to the point about this, but Motorola really needs to work on that. Get me those dual speakers on those devices, because that's one of the major complaints that I feel like really needs to be fixed. Other than that, let's discuss the Motorola G60S and its performance for about 250 to 300 euros, so you straight away know what price range this is. So Motorola, honestly for me a brand that does pretty well when it comes to the devices. Software for me is a good experience overall when it comes to Motorola. Yes, there are some things that could have been better, like for instance screenshots are not my preferable way of how to do it, because if you make a screenshot you then have to do a tap on the screen and or on the screenshot itself. You just cannot do anything else than that before you can make your next move. It's a bit odd to explain, but it just doesn't work as smooth, and I feel like they need to work on that. Now, when it comes to software experience, I think Motorola does it pretty well. Overall, the experience in terms of software is solid. However, there is one thing, well, technically two things. Screenshots need to be worked at. It's not as smooth as I'd like it to be, and you need an extra action to actually go away from the screenshot that you just made. It's kind of confusing and I don't like it that much. And then when you actually have multiple windows open, you have to scroll all the way to the side to then close all. You don't have that on the right side, top, bottom, anywhere else. You have to move straight to the other side to close all. I find that weird, and else you just have to manually swipe every single one up. Don't like it, and that's something that they need to work at. But overall, I think the software experience is really solid on this device. Nonetheless, it's clean, it's understandable, and honestly, I have no problem with it. Of course, the Motorola G60S does come with a 120Hz display, a 6.8 inch display by the way, with about 450 nits of normal use, and I think it's 563 as peak brightness. So in the sun, for instance, it's not great, but it's not bad by any means either. I can still see, of course, what is on the display. That being said, it's terrible weather here in the Netherlands, so I haven't had a case where it's really sunny, so I can properly check it out. But overall, when I use the light itself, for instance, that I use for this setup, I can still see it pretty clearly. Overall though, not the brightest display, but 120Hz, and it's an IPS LCD panel by the way. When it comes to specifications, let's start with the camera, because that's one of the things that I really care about. Now, the main shooter is a 64 megapixel sensor. Honestly, in daytime, a pretty solid performer. Then of course we have an 8 megapixel ultra wide, which is and then we have a 5 megapixel macro, and then sadly a useless 2 megapixel depth sensor, which is right there. I feel like they shouldn't have that anymore. I think having a depth sensor in the past years made sense for phones that just weren't that much, and then just saying, ha, we got 5 cameras, and then 2 of them, for instance, were like those 2 megapixel depth sensor, 2 megapixel macro sensor. A 5 megapixel macro sensor, by the way, is decently acceptable. It's not the greatest, but it works decently well. Overall, I think in terms of camera setup, it's pretty good. However, in low light, of course, you will see that it's hurting. And Motorola's processing in terms of low light shots, computational photography isn't the best yet. But honestly, again, it's not terrible for the price. But there are definitely phones that perform better in low light and daytime. The profile of the images itself I like. It's more to the natural tone that I prefer myself, and I think here Motorola has done a good job. When it comes to battery life, now this is something that I'm quite impressed with. Not only does it come with a 5000 mAh battery, which isn't something new or impressive by any means, it lasts really long. So in terms of battery life, it does really well. But open your box and you will find that not only do you get a charger and of course your case, but you will also find that the charger is 50 watt. And then, to make it even better, you have USB-A and USB-C in terms of connection. This means that whatever cable you have, you can put inside of it. Also, of course, you do get a USB-C to USB-C adapter. Either way, I think it's pretty solid that you get that inside of the box itself, because a lot of companies are currently removing, of course, the adapter because, you know, they want to make extra money. I mean, the rumor is that for the S22, you actually need to pay 50 euros for the charger. 50 euros. I'm saying this again. They are not doing this for the environment. They are doing it so they can sell you more and more accessories. That's it. They make the most money on accessories that you buy. Either way, the Motorola G60S is overall a solid package. I think the build is really nice, and especially the texture on the back, I really like it. Not only does it look nice and clean, it also, well, just feels really nice in the hand itself. A lot of phones in the past used to have like a plastic texture on the back. This kind of feels like that, and it really does feel nice in the hand. It feels like it has some grip to it, where glass phones, for instance, don't have that. When you also look at the back, you will see that the fingerprint scanner is of course at the back and not on the side, which for me has my preference. A lot of phones around this price have them at the side, and I don't think they work as well. Yes, it's easy to touch, but honestly, often I will find out that I pressed it in accident and then you have to wait again and all that stuff, or just use your unlock code or whatever you have next to it. But for myself, if I have it, I'd rather have it on the side or of course under the display when it comes to the Samsung ones with of course the ultrasonic. Either way, in terms of fingerprint scanner, it works fast and it works very consistent. So in terms of that, it's really solid. Also, power button is textured. Again, a nice detail that I truly like. So at the end, what do I think about the Motorola G60S? Now, straight from the get-go, I have to say that this isn't the best package you can get for the price. There are some other phones out there that do perform better. For instance, the Xiaomi Redmi Note 10 Pro is a really solid and compelling package, and for a reason it won the best value device out of 2021 for me when it comes to that price category. And then after that, you also have the Poco F3. Yes, you do pay a little bit more, but again, it's a really solid device. However, if you want the headphone jack, of course, that is obsolete in the Poco F3, but that Snapdragon 870 inside is really solid, where this has a MediaTek G95 out of my head, and that's just an average chip just in general. So I feel like if they want to have a bit more competition and they want to stand up a little bit more compared to some other competitors around this price, because it's very competitive, the CPU is the one thing that I really want to see upgraded. Some other features are really solid again compared to some other devices out there. And then of course you have two versions of this. You have a 4 GB of RAM and 128 GB of memory inside in terms of one version. And the second one is 6 GB and 128 GB of internal memory. I feel like Motorola could have just gone with the 6 GB and 128 GB of internal memory. But you know, I guess it depends a little bit on what the cost difference is and if that matters for you. If you, for instance, pay 25 less and that 25 euros is really important for you, the 4 GB version will still do a really good job at overall day-to-day performances. For instance, just browsing your web, twittering, watching YouTube, it will do fine. Just make sure that you close the apps on the background. Either way, the Motorola G60S is not the most compelling package overall, but I still think it's a really solid contender when it comes to the price and just the overall use, especially when it comes to battery life. Either way, hope you enjoyed this review of the Motorola G60S, and of course if you did, don't forget to hit a like and of course subscribe if you aren't, and that like or comment will really help out with the search result so it get pushed up a little bit more by YouTube. Either way, hope you have a good one, and of course that 2022 is treating you better than 2021. If 2021 or 2020 was bad as well. Either way, have a good one and talk to you guys in the next.